Welcome to the Thought Brothers. I'm Gary Johnson. We got a full house tonight. Tonight's a special night because, last week, I'm not sure if you were around to see what happened, and we'll introduce our guests in a few minutes. But we had a hot take segment, and the person who won the award wasn't even on the show. She hijacked, she didn't hijack. She won the award for having the best take. And so, to everyone watching, Mrs. Spivey won the prestigious and fictional Randy Watson Award for the hottest take, sponsored by Sexual Chocolate. Miss Spivey, want to give you a chance to at least say something about the award that you won and how you feel, and try to keep your emotions in check because I know this is a special moment. Miss Spivey, just say a few words about yourself and how you feel about accepting the award.
Well, I've been waiting all day for Bill to roll out the red carpet, and it hasn't happened. But on a serious note, I just gave him my opinion that he shared on the show, and I try to be a straight shooter, and I take my cues from a wonderful woman who's very close to Gary Johnson. And I just said what I felt was right at the time, and evidently everybody thought that was the best response to that scenario. But
It was,
I'm appreciative, and I thank you for the opportunity to be present with you this evening. And I hope we have a good show.
oh, we will have a good show. So we're going to go around the clock here and have everybody just introduce themselves. And then what we'll do, we're going to go through a series of scenarios and discussions. You'll have 90 seconds to comment. You have to make a decisive decision or answer, yes or no, if it's appropriate. No fence riding, no on both sides of the glass, and then just come strong. And then we'll go, and at the end of the show, everyone will have 3 minutes to sound off on whatever you want to. So, Eric, Garvin, you are next, and then Lakisa, you will follow Eric. You got 30 seconds to tell people who you are.
I am Eric Garvin. I am a neighbor of Gary. I reside in Palm Coast. I'm a native New Yorker, and I did spend 15 years of my life up there in the wonderful Washington, D.C. area.
All right, thank you. Lakisa, followed by Mr. Spivey.
Hello, everybody. I am Lakisa Taylor-Allston. I am the creator of the Marriagepreneurs podcast and Village, and I am here to join in on this wonderful conversation tonight. I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I've been married for 9 years to Amu Alston, and who may make an appearance if he gets home early tonight. He was on the show a couple of weeks ago, but thank you for having me.
All righty, Mr. Spivey, and then we'll follow up with Stan.
I'm Bill Spivey. I've been one of the regular hosts on the podcast for the past 4 years. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm retired and just enjoy being here.
All right, Stan, followed by Trey.
I'm Stan Harrison, business owner here in Florida. I conduct business in the insurance and financial world in 5 states, including North and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and also Louisiana. It's a pleasure being here and learning from these fine people on this show.
Okay. Trey, before you go, man, I'm just going to say, had you been here last week, you would have taken this award. I know that. I know that for sure. So I can't say you were robbed, but here you go, Trey. You can get it tonight. Go ahead.
Okay, what's going on, y'all? It's Talk to Trey, media personality, radio host. Catch me every Saturday at 93.9 WKYS. Overall sports addict. I'm getting into the boxing world now. I got a couple of homies doing their thing. Going to see my boy Jamal Harvey fight on Friday along with Alicia Bumgarner with Jake Paul Promotions or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Doing live media coverage. Also cover college basketball, the arena host for the Georgetown Hoyas and the Maryland Terrapins. Both of them had very bad years. We're not going to talk about that today, though. So overall lit personality. I'm outside, and I love to be here, man. Appreciate you for having me again.
All righty. Carlos and then CJ.
All right, Carlos Perlman, one of the thought brothers here. I guess I'm the middle guy. I guess I'm also called the an analyst, as I guess Google puts it nowadays. By day, I have a career in financial services, and when I'm not doing that, I'm out promoting my 501c3 nonprofit to help student athletes at my old high school in Prince George's County. So that is me, and that's what I do.
All right, CJ.
CJ, one of the regular hosts here on the Thought Brothers. I'm a local music artist here in the DC area. I have a show coming up April 25th here in Capitol Heights. If anybody wants to see some funk, rock, blues, have all types of genres and things like that. When I'm not doing music, I'm here with the Thought Brothers talking politics and talking sports with my boy Talk to Trey.
All right. All right. Now, folks, here we go. I'm going to start with our winner from last week, Mrs. Spivey. Here's the question, and I'm going to run a clock timer so you can go as strong or as long as you want. Here we go. First question. This is an easy question, I think. Should you split the bill on a first date? Mrs. Spivey.
No, I'm old school, and I think whoever invites the other, the person who does the inviting should pay the bill. Whether it be man, woman, two women, whatever. If I invite you to lunch, that means I want you to come and have a meal with me. It doesn't mean come and split a bill with me. So that's my opinion on that. And I'm short and sweet.
All right. Sounds good. Colonel, what say you? Should you split the bill on a first date?
I'm going to say no. I'm old school too, but I'm on the other side of the aisle. And I believe, first of all, just recognize, hey, you're in a competition here, right? You're trying to win the affection of this person. And I have a little brief story to share with you. When I was a cadet at the Air Force Academy, many, many decades ago, my wife, at the time, she was dating her boyfriend. On Valentine's Day came, right? He shows up at the house and he gives her one long stem rose. What I did was I sent her a dozen roses, right? Now, the florist rings the doorbell. Her mom goes downstairs to pick up the flowers, right? While my wife and her boyfriend were in the living room. Instead of taking the flowers to the back of the room, nope, mom was on my side. Mom took the flowers in there with Anna and her boyfriend, right? My wife swears today that those were the most beautiful roses that she ever had. So I rest my case. Yes, I'm paying the bill no matter who does the invitation.
All right. All right. Lakisa, what say you?
For the most part, I'm going to say if someone in a dating situation, if someone asks you out on a date, they should pay. However, this is my however. If you're not interested, I'm going to pay my half of the bill, and I'm going to leave out so we know that we can manage the expectations. I think in today's time, you have to put that little caveat out there.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Mr. Spivey.
Well, I'm going to say no. You should not pay the bill. Should not split the bill. I guess I'm kind of old school. Even if a woman invites me out on a date, I'm going to pay the bill because I believe that the old adage goes, first impressions are lasting impressions. And so if you go out with a young lady and you ask her to split the bill on the first date, I don't think you would probably get a second date because she would consider you being cheap. Now, if you're out with somebody and I guess you want to blow her off, I go with Lakeisha. I say, look, you want to split the bill? And she gonna probably say, hell yeah, split the bill, and she won't ever see me again. But old school, first impressions are lasting impressions. So I
Yeah.
think the man should always split the bill. I mean, pay the bill.
Okay. Stan?
I agree with the panel. The person who invites the other person on the date should be the one paying the bill. However, I do agree that from a traditional perspective, the male should be the one paying the majority of the bill, or at least the whole bill. I do have some background here. My man T.K. Kirkland always says, "Who raised you?" So if you didn't have anybody in your life that raised you well, then you would think otherwise. But if you had somebody in your life that raised you well, I would say the man traditionally would pay the bill.
Okay. Carlos,
Hey, no,
is,
no.
is that it?
The guy has to pay the bill. Hey, check this out. I don't even care who invites you out. The guy has to pay the bill because the guy is the 9 times out of 10 is the pursuer. I mean, he's trying to win the affections of a young lady and trying to make it right. And I got a few seconds left. Before I've been married now, over 14 years. My wife's already planning the 15th anniversary celebration. But I want to thank the guy who had an opportunity to date my wife before I dated her, because she said she went on a date with a guy. It was a first date, and he wanted her to split the bill. He never got a second date. I met her shortly after. We've been married for 14 years, and brother, you lost out. I'm good. So no.
Okay. CJ.
I'm gonna go with the panel. I know I'm usually known as the progressive new school guy, but I think whoever asked should be the one who pays. That's pretty simple. But I will say the landscape of dating has changed to the point where there are some different situations, as was pointed out before. We're in like the Tinder era now, where you can go on a whole lot of dates with people you don't even think know you're going to vibe with. So in that situation, it does make sense for both of you when it's a more mutual situation to split it and, like I said, cut your losses. If you guys don't like each other, boom, split the bill, go your separate ways, and no harm, no foul. Then you're on to the next swipe. So that's kind of like a more modern iteration, but I believe more with the old school iteration. Like if I ask somebody out, I'm going to pay, unless I don't want to see them again.
All righty. Trey.
First of all, I will not allow you to pay half of the bill because you're not about to just diss me like that. Because you're not about to just tell me after the date. You're like, we're not about to tell me right then and there after I done felt like we done made a connection that you're not connecting the way I want us to be connected. And two, you paying half the bill don't do nothing for me. That's not impressive for me. I ain't come here for the food. I came here to get to something else. So like you paying half the bill, like that's not impressive for me.
Hold on, what did you say? You said you came to get something else?
Yeah. I came to put in my bid for something else. Like I didn't come here for the food. You came here for the food and the ambiance and the whatever. I brought all of that to get you here, and now we're gonna go from there. So, I'm good on that.
Yeah.
Hey, now that's transactional, right?
Thank you.
That's life.
Thank
man.
you. And exactly. That's
The
just kind
hunter
of
So
what
you said, Trey, keep it real.
It don't always sound cute, Mr. Spivey, but it is what it is.
and in those a real gentleman is going to pay. A gentleman is going to pay. But that's why I said what I said, because unfortunately, women find themselves in that situation. So get out that situation. Always be able to take care of your own. That's all. I don't. In theory, I believe a man should pay if he's taking you on a date. But
Oh,
those
Trey.
transactions we got to watch out.
All right. Well, tell you what, thanks to Trey, I think we'll ratchet it up a little bit. Miss Spivey, here's the next question, and this is a multiple choice, okay?
Okay.
Your spouse or partner gets a major promotion, but it requires relocating to another part of the country. And you would have to take a step back in your career. Do you A, support your spouse or partner and move? B, ask them to turn it down? Or C, let them go and opt for a long distance relationship? What say you, Mrs. Spivey?
That's an easy one because we lived it.
Oh.
That's why I was laughing.
Yeah, what else you got? No, I think in a relationship, the gentleman is the leader. And if in your life you plan to be with that person, you have to let them lead. And so if a position comes up that he wants to take and it's in another part of the country or whatever, I mean, unless it's just not financially feasible, I think you should find a way to make it work.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Colonel Garvin.
So I'm going to waffle here because I have answers A and C, right? And it relates to my own question.
Carlos is throwing the penalty flag.
Throw the flag. Throw the flag.
No waffling. Go ahead.
I've been married for close to 45 years now. And we've opted for both models of a model where my wife supported me. And I must say this, that during the time frame that we're married, the landscape was significantly different, right? Males earned generally more than females did. That is no longer the case. So throughout my military career, I get an assignment. I'll give you an example. I had an assignment down at Eglin Air Force Base in the Gulf of Mexico. Beautiful. My wife did not want to leave. And I said, babes, here's how it works. You get the orders, you either say yes or no. You say no, you got to get out of the service. So throughout my career, she supported me. However, when I transitioned in the corporate world and I then began getting other opportunities, it was more, hey, we're going to take option C. You're going to do the long distance relationship. And I will tell you, that was challenging, right? Being separated from my wife for those periods of time. So I like A much better because we're together, right? Even if one has to sacrifice for the other.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lakisa.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Eric because you have to be, if you're committed to one another, you have to figure out what situation is going to, be best to save your marriage. And that's one of the things that I'm doing with coaching with couples is understanding the greater good if it's a temporary situation, but just have an understanding and having communication, and understanding what your long-term goals are as a unit, so that can help you kind of get through these short-term moments, because that happens now more often, and not just in military situations. And that's actually one of the core principles in working with entrepreneurial couples, because that same type of sentiment comes up when a spouse wants to quit their 9 to 5 to start pursue a dream. It's a similar concern. So in a similar thing to work through. But there's ways to work through it. It doesn't have to be the end of anything.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Spivey?
I'm not going to be a fence rider, so I'm going to say no. As my wife said, we've lived through it. I've been married 40 years. We had a situation where I came here to take a job as an FBI agent. She had to stay down in Norfolk. We had a second situation where she was in Norfolk and I was up here. And we had a third situation when she said, and she left that part off, it brought back memories. She said no. There was a situation where I was getting ready to change careers and I was going to work for one of the alphabet agencies. And in going through the process, both the husband and the wife have to go through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to take polygraphs. And so in order to conceal your identity, the agency changes your name. And we went through the interview process. And when the polygraph package came in, they had changed our name to Mr. and Mrs. Hadid. And Mrs. Spivey said, absolutely not. I don't know where the hell they're going to send you. And if you go by yourself. So yeah, I turned that position down and stayed with the FBI. So we've lived the situation a couple of times over the past 40 years.
All right. Stan.
Let's just say I knew a guy way back when, and I'll just skip to the chase because I know we're on a shot clock. Let's just say this particular situation, it's interesting that you bring this question up because this actually caused the relationship to divide. So
Mm.
the gentleman was offered a position to increase his salary threefold, which included housing, purchase of a new home, the sale of the current home, and all the benefits that came with that. And the spouse said, hell no. And let's just say that relationship did not last. So, um, which is interesting that you bring up this question. So again, this is just a friend. You know what I'm
Right.
talking about.
Okay. Okay. Oh boy, Carlos.
All right. Here's where I say yes. And I say yes that you go because when you sign up for the marriage, when you sign up for the job, people know that's part of the deal, right? You know, if you're not going to marry somebody who when you meet tells you that I have a job that requires travel and one day I may get transferred to the West Coast. If you don't want to live on the West Coast, that's going to affect the relationship from the start, and it's probably not going to go anywhere. If you decide to go with it, knowing that you can be in a relationship where you have to move, then yes, you would go. You know what you sign up for. Now, obviously, it's a lot of things to talk about. You know, if that's not what you want, then you don't do it. You don't go down that road. But I haven't heard of too many professional athletes' wives say, "Nah, you can go ahead and keep your money and leave." Nah, they going with you wherever you go. And that's professional athletes, could be CEOs, whatever the case may be. And like Colonel Garvin said, you know, it's not always the man who makes the most money. It's could be the woman in this case. But my answer is yes overall, but again, the reality would be I know for myself and my wife, you know, both of us have already said no, not at this point in our lives where we're going to relocate. You know, maybe again, if we had met 20 years earlier and it was a different story, that would be the case. But that's my take. And like I said, if you see that professional wife who says she doesn't go, just call Travis Hunter's girlfriend or wife. Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. CJ.
I agree with what Carlos was saying in the respect that you just have to really work that out with the person that you're in the relationship with because all the careers are different. And like I said, especially with the changing economy and things like that, if there are any jobs left with AI going into the future, a lot of people are just doing what they have to do to survive in terms of the income and, you know, making it work, tag teaming, you know, whatever jobs. And if you have kids and things like that, just, you know, to make it work. So again, it really depends on, like I said, the communication you have with your partner. I feel like early on, like Carlos was saying, a good example is like as a musicians notoriously hard to date because, like, say, you have to be out of town. I have to be practicing at rehearsals all the time. You get, you know, attention from other women, you know, and things like that. You have to constantly be on the road, things like that. And if you don't have an understanding with the person you're dating about that, those things are eventually going to become problems and strain your relationship. So that's pretty much my answer, agreeing with the panel for the most part.
Okay. Trey.
You gotta get that chicken, man. Well, what's my girl Gwen Guthrie? Her song or what? Ain't nothing going on but the rent. Okay, ain't no romance without finance. All right, like CJ said, we trying to survive out here, man. If you get into that money, you got to go get to it. If I gotta go if I gotta be a what they call it, the wags, wives and girlfriends. If I gotta be boyfriends and husbands, the bads, whatever. You know, I'll pull up. If I gotta be a little manager, whatever I gotta do. If you get into that chicken, we gonna all we get into that chicken. So you know, rent due on Monday.
Okay. Okay. That's pretty clear. I think I'm gonna stay in this relationship lane. Let's go back and let's say here, you've been dating for 6 months. Okay. The relationship, in your view, is going well. And it's going so well that you can see yourself discussing a serious relationship in terms of marriage. And you start talking marriage, and then the partner shares that they're $80,000 in debt. They just mentioned that. Um, so, you know, what is it? A, is this a red flag? B, is this a deal breaker? Or C, none of your business? Miss Spivey, what say you?
Well, I'd have to know what the debt was for. And if you told me it was for student loan or
I tell you what, you know, that's a great question. Let's say the debt is a result of student loan debt and being laid off at one point. and they're just trying to play catch up. So that I'll put that in context. That's a great point.
Okay, all right.
So they don't know the
Um,
mafia money or something like that.
No,
yeah.
no, no.
Crypto.
Okay, so go ahead, Ms. Spivey. You got the clock.
If I'm invested into this relationship, then I would say let's sit down and come up with a scenario on how we can get you out of this hole you're in
Mhm.
and move forward together. And let's put guardrails in place so that this doesn't happen again.
Okay. Colonel?
So I'm with Miss Spivey on this one. However, with one exception, and the fact that you didn't disclose this up front could potentially indicate maybe some challenges with communication, things that you need to work through. So rather than slam the brakes on it, it's something that we definitely need to talk about. I'm with Miss Spivey on let's work together and try to figure out a game plan on how we're going to pay down this debt. But we also need to figure out how we are going to communicate and have a fuller disclosure of stuff. No surprises.
Okay. Lakisa?
I want to say it depends on the stage of life you are in, but I want to say if first of all, you need to ask the question. If you are talking about marriage, that should be part of the question that you're asking. Early on when my husband and I dated, I knew what was in his bank account. I never showed him my bank account, but I knew exactly what was in his bank account. He literally gave me the paper, through the paper. Here's a statement. Okay, all right, I can work with this. So that should be part of your requirement before you are looking to marry anybody. And for men, you should want to become as whole as possible before you enter into a marriage. Because I can help you as a female, but you need to own that whatever it is, whatever that baggage, whatever that damage is, you need to kind of own that for yourself. And I, as your helpmate, as your helper, will help you. Now, with men, with women, and maybe I'm spoiled and my friends and stuff, the man has helped them out of their situations. And that's different because the man is, if you believe in the man leading the household. But I think you definitely should have to have it all on the table. But I think a woman should really be cautious to move forward in a relationship with a man who hasn't disclosed his debt and has a action plan for his debt by himself.
Okay, let me just ask a clarifying question. I think you answered it, but I want to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
You used the phrase as whole as possible.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Let's just get that out there to you.
That means that you have worked on yourself, your situation. You have self-examined enough. You know who you are. You know where you're going. You know, even if you have children before you getting married, even if you've had you just as a person, you are free from um, things like debt or things holding you back in life. You
Okay.
know, so you're able to move forward. And as a man, there's just some things that you need to be able to do. If you men know what I'm saying. Being a man, there's and I was, my father is a strong man and he's a man's man. So I'm raised to see a man as the head of household. I'm a very independent woman. We're interdependent in our marriage, but there's a wholeness that you have to have as a man. You can't be weak. You have to be strong.
Okay. All right. And hopefully our mood can get off work early and join you on the show tonight.
Oh, we have these conversations all the time, all the time.
Yeah. Mr. Spivey, the clock's on you.
Well, I think it's a situation, and I agree with Mrs. Spivey. It's a situation as to what caused the debt. And, a question that I would have, is it different? I mean, I'm listening to the young lady and I'm wondering, is it different if it's a man's debt or if it's a woman's debt? That would be a question. But my question would be, what is the cause of the debt? If the cause of the debt is student loans, if the cause of the debt is because you ran into a situation where you've lost your job or whatever, whether it's man or woman, I think it's a situation where you all should be able to sit down and come up with a plan to try to get out of the debt. But if it's a situation where you're jacked up and you're in debt because you didn't pay your bills, and you wasted your money on clothing, cars, and glamorous clothes and that type of thing, then what I'm going to do is I might love you and I might still consider marrying you, but I'm gonna keep my credit completely separate from your ass because you're not gonna jack me
I'm
up
getting
into
married.
your problems. So I think it just depends on the situation.
Okay. Stan.
This is one of those everyday scenarios for me. So this one is an easy one. I call this a slam dunk. So two questions arrive. The first question goes to the person who's telling the other that there is a debt. And that person that's receiving that information should ask the question, number one, what is the plan to rid that debt? Number two, the question should come to the person who's receiving that information. And that question is, why is this person telling me at this time? I agree that it's important to know the source of the debt, but I think it's also more important to know what the plan is and what's the specific reason why that debt is being shared at that particular moment in time. Mrs. Spivey made a great comment, and that is, what is my current investment with this person at this point? Because you have to make a decision at that time. Is it better to run? Because that is a sincere red flag. Or is it better to ask the question, what is not my plan for your debt, but what is your plan for your debt? Because if we get married, then that debt potentially could become our debt. But at this time, before we move to the next step, that debt is your debt. So the question is, what is your plan to rid that debt before we go any further? And as a man's man, and being the stage that I am right now, 20 years ago, I probably couldn't say this, but at this point in my life, I can sincerely say, you can go ahead on with that, sweetheart. We ain't doing it.
Okay. All right. And he came in right at the buzzer. All right. Carlos, you've been known to work in, not known, you work in the money arena. Come on.
Hell no. Hell no. Don't do it. Man, it's like several red flags on this one. 6 months. Man, you shouldn't even marry nobody until you roll a year. You don't even know if they filed taxes or not in April. Because you ain't been with them for a year. They might owe back taxes. You can't do it. You better put a solid year in and better have mama and daddy and other relatives consult and be involved. Because I've seen a lot of brothers make this decision by themselves in under a year and thinking they're making the right decision. They don't have people who have looked out for them their entire lives involved in that decision process. Yes, it is your decision, but the people who know you best and who've known you your whole life, who supported you and have a track record of supporting you, have a good track record of making good financial decisions, should be involved before you make that decision to marry somebody you've known for 6 months. And then they're going to tell you when you want to get married that they're 80,000 in debt. More people get divorced today because of finances than cheating. Hell no. And you can take that to the bank.
All right. All right, CJ, time for you to make a deposit.
Oh, no, I agree with Carlos. I think he kind of just cooked there, honestly. Like you can't I feel like in this day and age, well, first of all, marriage after 6 months is crazy. Like, I'm glad that he pointed that out. Like, that was like the main thing that was kind of brushed over. But like, you don't even know this person.
Proposal.
That's still, that's kind of wild. You don't know that person after. So people can put on a facade for 6 months before, like you really got to spend some time and have some ups and downs. You got to go on a vacation or two, have some fights first before you can consider that. But even beyond that, like I said, and again, the source of the debt is important, which a lot of people mention. Again, like I said, if you are in some Breaking Bad situation and got some debt with the cartel, then yeah, then that's a red flag. But if it's like medical debt or something like that, then okay, that's understandable. Let's come up with a plan. Let's try to work out of that. But just in my experience, you can only be broke as a man for so long on that side of the equation. Some women will work with you, because they believe in you and your personality, but you're still on a ticking clock. And if you don't make some money fast enough, you will be
That's right.
discarded. Unfortunately, that is just how it is in terms of, the mindset for just a lot of women. The men is supposed to be the provider. So like I said, there's an expectation that, that there's a financial role there, but that's my time.
Okay.
Hey, get me throw something in here real quick. Hey,
Go
CJ,
ahead.
one of my favorite comedians, Chris Rock, said, "You will never hear a woman say, 'We got so much closer after you lost your job.'" It will never happen. It just ain't gonna happen, man.
Okay, Trey.
80,000?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay, because like I feel like everybody, the sentiment is nice. Oh, I want to help my partner out. You know what I'm saying? As a man's man, we're supposed to, put your best foot forward and figure it out. Nah, dog. 80,000. Ain't no romance without finance. That goes for you too. How'd you get to $80,000 worth of debt without addressing it? That shows me that you gonna put me in $160,000 worth of debt eventually. Because if you can't handle your money, you damn sure can't be able to handle my money. So absolutely not. The only way I'm taking that is if I had $80,000 right there to spend.
Okay.
So,
Well,
All
wait a
right.
minute, Trey. Now
hey,
you putting it
Gary.
down now, so you already put your deposit now. So now it's time to man up.
What you mean, man? Up 80,000? That wasn't part of the deposit.
But
But what
that's
if
the
it's student
transaction that
loans,
you're
like
putting
he
out there.
said? Oh no,
Dude,
yeah. What if it's
Could have went
student
to
loans?
trade school.
some student loans, okay, cool. But you're supposed to have a plan for that too. You gotta come to me whole, yo. 80,000.
He
Where'd you go
working.
to school at? What was your degree in? Why ain't you getting no paper to pay none of that off? How do we still at $80,000 in debt? I'm 35 years old. What are we talking about? I've been in school debt before. Like CJ said, unless you in some Breaking Bad type situation where you owe some drug cartel and you smuggling blue heroin for somebody. No, absolutely not, yo. This is I just 80,000 is crazy.
Okay.
If it was 20,000, all right, we can work with 20,000.
Okay.
Money has obviously triggered the panel. So let me put up another scenario and lower the bar. Okay. How about this? A good friend, very close friend, 25 plus years, comes to you and says, "Look, can you loan me $5,000?" Now, longtime friend, but they got a history of mismanaging their money. So what do? A, do you loan your friend the money? B, do you gift your friend the money? C, do you just say no? Miss Spivey?
Mm. If I know that the person has a history of not being able to keep their finances straight, I would gift them the money and say, when you're able and you want to, pay me back, but I won't be expecting it. And then
Okay.
that's just, or on another day, I might just say, hell no.
Okay. All right. So you would gift the money, but you would also tell them if you can pay it back, pay it back. Is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
All
yes.
right. Colonel, what you got?
So I'm a giver by nature. So I would say that I would do just like Miss Spivey did. I'm going to gift you the money with no expectation that the person is going to give me that money back. Uh, and that helps me, right? Because if I have this clear expectation that this person is going to give me the money back and they have a bad track record, I free myself from that, right? Now, I will say this. I think we as people, and I'm looking myself in the mirror when I say this, we need to use the N word more often. No, right? And I recall going to Eliud Kipchoge's camp in Kenya. Eliud Kipchoge is the Michael Jordan of marathons. And one of the biggest rules that he had listed there for all of his athletes is you need to gain vitamin N. Vitamin N was saying no. And it's something that really, really stuck with me. Although I haven't been able to apply that principle very, very well.
Okay. Lakisa?
All my friends make more money than me, so they're not coming and asking me for $5,000. But and the people that do ask me for money, no. The answer is no, because it's usually the people asking me for money that they not managing their money well, which is why they're asking me. And they're coming to me because they didn't ask everybody else. I already told them no.
Okay.
No.
All right. Mr. Spivey?
You know, that's a tough question, but I would say I would probably give them the money, but I would be very explicit when I give them the money and tell them, I'm giving you this money. Don't tell me you're gonna pay me back because I don't want to hear it because you don't pay nobody. So it's plain and simple. I don't expect the money back. I would prefer to be surprised, but I would probably give them the money if it was a close friend of mine.
Okay. Stan?
Good question. And there's a reason why this podcast is called The Thought Brothers. I would say this. If my desire is to no longer have that person as a friend, then yes, I would give them the money. However, because I'm also a fisherman, I believe that if you give a person the fish, they're going to eat for a meal. But if you teach them how to fish, then they'll eat for a lifetime. So
Mhm.
I would go a little bit further and say, instead of just giving them that $5,000, I would go a little deeper and ask questions. I'm from the old school. I like asking a lot of questions. They called me the professor when I grew up because I ask a lot of questions. I would ask them so many questions that it'll make them say, oh man, just forget it. I don't want the money anymore because you didn't want it anyway. You thought that I was easy. So that's the reason why I would, again, ask myself, do I really want this person to be my friend moving forward? Because I would say to them, if you don't want to be my friend anymore, I'll give you the money.
Okay.
And I'll just put it at that.
Carlos?
Hell no. Um, dude, you can't do that. That's bad underwriting. Um, hey, look, people, I've never been rich, okay? So maybe if you're rich, you can just throw 5,000 around here and there. Maybe you're good. I've never been rich, so th- that doesn't even make a difference. It's just bad underwriting, right? You know somebody's not going to pay you back. So now you're just putting a friendship in a very bad position. And like Stan said, if you want to lose a friend, yeah, do business with friends. I'm not talking about friends you met at work who are really business associates who turned into friends, because those are really business associates. You're talking about a friend, somebody you grew up with, somebody that in a social setting that wants to borrow this money. Okay. No, bad underwriting. You know their situation. I'm with Lakisa. They probably asked other people before they got to you. They, and again, if you're not Bill Gates or somebody, like if you're not rich and they know you're not rich, um, no, it's just a bad deal. You're gonna lose the friend. You're gonna lose the $5,000, and then when it's gonna be a day when you probably need to borrow money from somebody, you'll go back to that friend and they'll be like, "Nope," and then it's gonna make things worse. So to stay away from the whole situation and say, you know what, I'll pray for you. Unfortunately, I can't help you.
Okay. CJ?
It's like a pet peeve of mine, maybe because of my personal position. But yes, I'm going to go with Carlos and say absolutely hell no. If I know that this person is not going to manage the money right, one, I'm the brokest person I know. So if you asking me for money, then I know you don't went down the list of like 50 other people if you asking me. And then secondly, you know I'm broke as hell too. So what you asking me for money is crazy on its surface. I don't remember the last time I had $5,000 to spend on anything. So if somebody asking for that, that's the best way for me to use both N words in the same phrasing. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. All right, Trey.
All right, so panel, are you guys familiar with the rapper Offset?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for those of you who don't
No.
know, Offset is a rapper, dated Cardi B for a while. I know some of the sports guys here are familiar with the wide receiver Dez Bryant.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you a quick story for those of you who are not hip to what's going on. Des Bryant and Offset are friends. Offset is known for not paying his debts back that he borrows from people. He had borrowed $8,000 from Des Bryant before at one time and did not pay him back. About a week or two ago, Offset hit up Des Bryant and asked him for a loan for some money. And Des Bryant thought about it. He started to do it, and then he said no. 2 hours later, Offset was shot outside of a casino over a money debt.
Hmm.
So, in the words of Des Bryant, some people don't play about their money. I ain't saying I'm gonna shoot you, but I ain't saying I won't.
Okay. Okay.
And
All right.
and and in that example, Gary, Cardi B tried to help him from based on that last question. She tried to help him get his money up, and here we are, Offset still in the same situation.
Mm.
You know, Gary, my wife is gonna kill me after this podcast. About 35 years ago, we we had a tax debt, and so we had claimed something that should have been depreciated over a period of time. We claimed it at one lump sum, and so we had a tax penalty we had to pay. So Renee said, "Well, I'll just ask my daddy." So she went and asked her daddy, "Could we borrow the money to pay the tax debt?" He said, "Well, who do you owe?" We said, "We owe the IRS." He said, "So you want to take my money and pay the IRS and then you gonna owe me?" Hell no. So, so we eventually asked my parents and they gave us the money. So yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So she
Um,
gonna kill me after this. May his soul rest in peace.
yeah. I've got one final question, scenario question, and then we'll close out by letting you all sound off, 3 minutes about anything you want. You don't have to. If you don't want, you can just pass. But just want you to have the opportunity to sound off. But here's our final discussion scenario. You witnessed your best friend humiliate their spouse or partner in public. You believe your friend's behavior was completely wrong and unnecessary. Do you correct them privately? B, call it out in real time? C, just stay out of it? Miss Spivey, it's on you.
Well, I can hear me saying, "Come here, let me talk to you for a minute." I think I would pull the person to the side, because for me to reprimand or call that person out in a public way would be the same thing that they had just done to their spouse. But I do think that it's like a bad kid. You can't punish them next week for something they did a week ago. You need to spank them right when they do it. So I think that I would, whoever it was, man or woman, whatever, I think I would just say, "Can I talk to you over here for a second?" And I think I would have a conversation. And they might reflect on that and think, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have spoken to my spouse in that manner. And maybe they'll go back and fix it. But I think that's the way I would handle it. My
Okay.
husband would tell me, "Stay out of that shit. It ain't none of your business."
Okay. Eric Garvin.
I would privately have a conversation with them, a very frank conversation with them, and say, "Hey, you can't be doing this. I think it's important that we not be complicit with that behavior by being silent. So I think it's important for us to have that private conversation. And by doing it privately, you're giving him or her the dignity of a private conversation. Uh, I just think that these things, oftentimes, these abusive behaviors, if left unchecked, can turn into very toxic relationships and can turn into violence. And as a young kid, I saw that in living color with my mother and her partner. And I was a young kid and I couldn't put that person in check because I was about 8 or 9 years old, right? So I think it's very important to direct, to confront that person immediately on the spot and do not hold any punches.
Okay. Thank you. Lakisa.
I've actually been in this situation a few times, unfortunately. And I've done two things, and depending on the scenario, I've privately confronted a friend. And I've also jumped in a situation that I felt like I needed to advocate for the friend. And in those situations where I've kind of jumped in, probably not even probably all of them, I can't think of one that lasted. Because to your point, it was more likely a toxic situational relationship. But so I've been in both scenarios. It's kind of not a one size fit all answer to me, but would even now, I think being accountability to people who are your real friends, that you can have honest conversation with, and that they will listen to you, you will listen to them. It's a conversation to have privately. That's my overall. Jumping in is not. I was a little younger then, a little more hype. I'm still kind of hype, but I don't think jumping in is the best way to handle it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Spivey.
You know, when you get in a situation like that, I can recall going through training on diffusing situations like that. You really need to handle the situation delicately. And if it's somebody that's a friend of mine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them, can I speak with them? And just say, hey, can we have a conversation? I'm going to take the person out of the situation. I'm not going to go over 5 feet and try to talk to them, because a lot of times what will happen is when you try to diffuse the situation, the person that's the aggressor will get loud with you while you're trying to calm them down. So if it's a situation, say in a lobby or something, I'm going to say, let me talk to you. I'm going to take them outside. And then you just tell them, look, one of the things you can tell a person, if it's a good friend of yours, is that you're embarrassing yourself and you're embarrassing me as your friend, because, people are associated with the company they keep. So you're embarrassing me also. A lot of times that will calm a person down. If the person decides he wants to get belligerent, you're away from the situation that was the catalyst in the beginning. So I would take the person outside, but I would never, ever interject into an argument between a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, or a wife while they are arguing, and try to mediate, because it's not going to be good for you.
Okay. Thank you. Stan?
Brother Spivey, Colonel, you guys nailed it, man. Not very much more needs to be said on this. Number one, you never jump into what I call a fire that's already hot, because all you'll be is burnt up. Number two, depending on your friendship, and I do agree that, birds of a feather flock together. And number three, you don't know what happened prior. So you don't know what I call the flavor of that particular Kool-Aid. So you have to be careful in that. So I'm torn three ways, or at least two ways, because number one, you don't jump in there. Number two, you definitely want to defuse the situation. And number two, you need to be a little bit more objective and ask yourself, how did we get to this place, and who am I associating myself with? So I'll give some time back.
Okay. All right, Carlos.
Man, in my Samuel Jackson voice, you better stay out of that. Come on, man. Don't get involved with that, man. Hey, look, when it's a husband and wife, there's always something we don't know, even if it's your best friend. Even if it's your best friend. And then when you find out later why your friend went off on their spouse, you like, oh, wow, he got another woman pregnant? Oh, he ain't paid the mortgage in a year, and you can go into foreclosure because he's spending money on somebody else? Oh, your wife quit her job a year ago, and she's been going to work, pretending like she's going to work, and she's been living a second life with another man? I mean, you'll find out all these crazy things that you just thought you knew that you didn't know. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. And try to recoup, or what's that in football when you have a bad loss? You try to come back, go through the film, try to figure out a new approach and then reapproach and go from there. But stay out of that, man. That's very bad. Very bad.
CJ.
Yeah, I definitely agree with definitely stay out of it. And but it the initial factor of it depends on how close I am with the person. Like I said, if it is a true friend, I agree with everyone else. You take them aside for a private conversation, remove them from the situation, try to, take the heat down of the situation and de-escalate and try to, like I said, find some understanding away outside of that. But if they're not, like I said, I've cut off acquaintances for less. Like I said, I've, a lot of people in the music scene that are not really my friends, but I know them and I've seen them and they have some weird Andrew Tate like energy, and then they'll just never hang out with them again. It's just a huge like I said, I don't want to be associated with this person and the vibe and how they treat people. But if it's like an actual friend that that I want to help and I don't want them to be perceived like that, then yeah, I'm definitely going to take them aside. But also what Carlos said, yeah, definitely never getting involved in the heat of the moment. Because one, I don't know the details of the situation. Everybody's relationship is different. Like you just said, could be some crazy details. I'm not about to insert myself and end up having to fight somebody, and then I end up being wrong and beat up somebody who who was in the right because I didn't know all the details. Or the worst scenario, I get my ass beat and I'm also in the wrong because I interjected in something that I had no business being in because I didn't know all the details of what the fight was about. So whatever's happening in the moment, as long as it's not physical and abusive, y'all got to work that out without me.
Okay. Trey, you got the last word on our discussion scenarios, my brother.
So I'm gonna use another rapper analogy here. This isn't a relationship, but I feel like the rules still apply here. Lil Wayne, I think a lot of you are familiar with Lil Wayne. He had a contract situation with Birdman, the owner of Cash Money Records. Now Birdman is like a father figure to Lil Wayne. Has basically raised him since he was about 9 or 10 years old. And they were publicly beefing over that contract at the time. And there was a lot going on, a lot being said, a lot of bad words going back and forth. And someone by the name of Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, who you also may be familiar with, he came out and said something very profound because it happens over and over again, especially in relationships. You be careful when you come in there in between people's relationships picking sides because they gonna kiss and make up one day.
Right.
But they gonna remember what you had to say and how you handled that situation when there was, when everything got hot. So, you stay out of that as much as possible in the moment. You can try to de-escalate the situation, like CJ said, as long as nobody's being physically harmed or anything like that in the moment, then y'all got to figure that out on your own, man. I got my own problems.
That might be the take of the night.
Woo. All right. All right. So here we go. We're going to close out. We're just going to go around. I'll give you 3 minutes to sound off on anything that's going on that you want to talk about, and we'll run the shot clock. Miss Spivey, is there anything that's going on that you want to talk about? If so, just go.
Well, the list goes on and on. I think that everyone who has the ability to and the space for it should plant a garden. That's what we're doing at our house. We have now taken part of our deck and put a raised garden on it. And so far we just have tomato plants, but we're going to grow some lettuce and some herbs. And it's kind of like watching little children grow. And it's something therapeutic about putting your hands in soil and dealing with nature and watching to see if it's going to bloom or whatever. And it can help you with your grocery bill and that kind of thing. But I think with all of the craziness in this world right now, we all need to find some kind of way to just reconnect with our norms and the things that give us peace in the moment. We're in terrible times. And if you pay attention to it just to know what's going on, but it'll drive you crazy. I used to watch Rachel Maddow every weeknight.
Mm-hmm.
And after Donald Trump got in the White House, I stopped watching her show at night because after I watched it, I couldn't sleep. And so I just think that we all need to find something to connect us back to our inner peace with nature and with God. And always know that there is a greater being who's going to take care of everything.
Thank you. Well stated. Colonel Garvin.
I tell you what, that is pretty profound. She's finding her own wonderland. Recently, Jerry Demings, who's running to be the governor of Florida, Democrat, he's the husband of Val Demings, former congresswoman. He came and he spoke to our community, and he used the phrase, and that phrase was Wonderland. And what he said is, every day we wake up thinking, what in the wonder is this guy in the White House going to do the next day? So let's review that over the past 2 weeks, what has happened in
Mm.
our country and abroad. First, he threatened to annihilate an entire civilization of 93 million people. He didn't say he was going after the military leadership or military targets. He said every man, woman, child in Iran. He publicly made that threat, which, by the way, is in fact a crime of genocide, the mere threatening of that. Second, he has been attacking the Pope. Who in their right mind could ever have imagined a president or any political leader attacking the Pope? But fortunately for this Pope's got some backbone. He's from the south side of Chicago, and he's made it abundantly clear to Trump and the rest of his administration, I do not fear you, right? And then finally, he pretended to be Jesus, right? And you think, so here's my wonder question. I'm wondering when these sycophants, and I see some of them are trying to change their tune now, when are they going to say enough is enough? Now, I want to bring up one other topic, right? Because this is something that's really near and dear to me. Several months ago, Elon Musk and his boys, they targeted USAID, right? And that doesn't get very much headlines anymore, right? But I want you to understand the implications of what they did and how racist that was. Elon Musk, product of apartheid South Africa, track record for racism throughout all of his businesses. He specifically got rid of USAID. As of today, 750,000 people have already died. They are projecting by 2030 as many as 14 million people will die. And as many, a worst case scenario, is up to 22 million, right? Now, I want you to hear me and hear me clear on this. The places where that is happening, 70 to 75% of that is happening in sub-Saharan Africa. They're not funding malaria anymore. They're not funding the HIV AIDS thing, right? So I think it's important for us to have this perspective and understand what is really going on, because that doesn't get a whole lot of headlines anymore. But people are going to die because of Donald Trump and his administration.
Okay,
You've already.
thank you. Lakisa.
Good evening again. I'm sounding off really and because it's in the forefront of my mind. Like I said earlier, I'm here. I have the Marriagepreneurs podcast. I have the Marriagepreneur books coming out. But what I want people to understand is, as you all express your concerns, part of what I believe our community needs to do, the Black community, is basically, in a sense, reclaim our time. I don't buy into too much. I watch the news, but our eyes should still be on the prize of our community. Slavery did a number on the mental. Civil rights, although good in some parts, broke us up. So that's why entrepreneurship is very important to me. Right now, it's about getting your own. Government, you can no longer depend on. You can't depend on just going into your 9 to 5. So what can we do to empower ourselves? When we think about, that's why Oprah Winfrey probably named Own Network. Yes, it's her initials, but it's about having our own. So how do we do that? That's what we need to be doing while they are doing what they're doing. We need to focus back on ourselves. I'm a real estate agent. People are afraid to buy right now. They want to buy into this concept of renting, because that's what corporate America is pushing you to do. It's still, you marry the home, you date the interest rates. You need to own your own business, own your own house, own your own land. So you can have a piece of this American dream. That's how you get it. And that's how you get it done. And one of the things marriages, even when I started this project, one of the reasons I went to a conference, I didn't speak up because a lot of the women in the room were divorced or going through bad relationships. And I said, this is one of the reasons why I don't speak up. But we need to speak up because our family marriages was the key to the backbone of our Black community, and we've allowed that to be destroyed with broken homes, broken marriages. People can't even co-parent. The court system has to come in and tell them how to do child support and visitation. Like, even if we should be able to figure some of these things out for ourselves. And I think we're allowing too much stuff to hold us back. And that situation, like that movie Crash, remember in Crash, how the concept was Black people rob Black people, white people rob from Black people, Hispanics from Hispanic, same thing. This is not quite a Black person's problem. Our problem is still our community, and I just think that we need to focus more on how we build ourselves up. Now is the time to do it while they focused on other things.
Okay. Thank you much. Mr. Spivey?
I just wanted to thank Eric for some of the things that he talked about, because I was going to talk about a couple of those things. And the USAID thing is very, very prevalent. A lot of people don't know about it. And the thing that really troubles me with this administration is they do a lot of things, and they do it undercover where people do not read into between the lines. As Eric said, with getting rid of USAID, you're going to have millions of people that are going to die. Elon Musk and Donald Trump knew that when they cut AID, that the majority of the people that were going to be dying was going to be in Africa. And they didn't care, but a lot of people, they don't know about that. A lot of the news media is controlled now. And so a lot of the news medias, networks, they don't talk about this. Another thing that I'm going to be looking closely at, and a lot of you all may be aware, but you've had 2 congressmen this week that have resigned because of sexual harassment and that type of thing. The thing that I'm going to really be looking at is Showall. Well, he is accused of drugging women and taking advantage of them. So I want to pay close attention to that because, my wife and I look at, well, my wife got me tied up into these country Wayne skits. And so we look at them religiously. But it was a scene on a country Wayne skit where this guy, Purnell, who is Larry's brother, Larry's married to a white woman named Bethany. And he said to Larry, he said, nothing's going to happen to Bethany because she's got the complexion for protection. So I want to see if Showall is going to have the complexion for protection, because the things that he's accused of are the identical things that Bill Cosby was accused of. And a lot of people don't know, but Bill Cosby, I think it was probably early last month, lost another case, and it was $19 million. And it was a woman who said that he had drugged her 54 years ago. And he ended up was sued for $19 million. So, and that is something that I just find preposterous because, there is no defense. And that's the sad thing about today. If you're in a position, say any of us on this panel, if we were running for a position and somebody, or they were able to find somebody from our past to come up and say that we had sexually assaulted them, you're immediately asked to withdraw simply because you can't defend that in this climate of social media today. So I'm going to be looking very closely at this case with Showall, Tony Gonzalez also, but I want to see if they're going to be indicted.
All
And if
right.
you notice, I know my time is up, but if you notice, our illustrious president has not made any comment because he is definitely a sexual assaulter who has been convicted.
Right.
Amen.
Okay. Stan.
I'm glad Brother Spivey brought up the Swalwell situation and the Gonzalez situation. So I'll bypass that. I'll double down with the Mike Vrabel and Diana Ruzzini situation. Apparently, Ms. Ruzzini was receiving insider information, and she has resigned from her position as an inside sports I guess you call it reporter. So we'll see. Both of them are currently married. It has been reported that Ms. Rosini has publicly embarrassed her husband on multiple occasions. So again, another situation where we have taken the defense strategy and not participated in such activities. So I'll move on to something else that is that kind of hit my memory here. We speak a lot on this show about fraud, and this is one that was a gross situation where um, it's a paternity fraud case where I thought this was just absolutely sad. Where the gentleman, his name is Mansir, his ex-spouse, her name is Sear. They were married. He could not afford to pay the child support, so he spent 5 years in jail as a result. Unfortunately, he did get out of jail and he was in court. And come to find out, the child was not his.
Yeah.
Mm.
When I tell you a gross scenario, one that brings light to the requirement of the DNA testing. And in my research of that particular case, I learned that there are 3 states. My son sent me one of those little TikTok videos where there's 3 states that I think one state is Kentucky, Delaware, and I believe Louisiana, who all 3 states enacted a law. And Kentucky was the first state that enacted this law that presumes that in the event of a divorce, both parents share the child 50-50, which means that there's no incentive, there's no financial incentive for custody of the child, which means child support is no longer on the table. That law alone, for a period of 6 years, reduced their divorce rate by a total of 25%. There was another state that doubled down to say there is no alimony or there should be no financial benefit in divorce, meaning that you guys would have to share this child. You will have to communicate and you will continue to have connections with each other. So, therefore, you may as well work it out. When you agree to marry, it says for better or for worse, which means that you should work this thing out. So, that's my 3 minutes, folks.
Okay. Thank you. Carlos.
Wow, we heard a lot of stuff. Let me just take it straight to the streets. Trump, ain't nothing we can do. We got to ride this out, man. We can't stop the war. We can't change oil prices. We can't do any of those things. But we can do, to go back to what Lakisa said, we can go back to our communities and have an impact. We can show people how to become homeowners, business owners. We can show people how to, obtain higher education or trade or vocational education. We can show young people, there is a path that leads to a better place, and maybe we can make America great again, African American society, as opposed to just watching the news and just talking about all the crazy things. He's going to continue to do crazy things. It's not going to stop. Okay, but the same way, and I think someone had said on a previous show that by him bombing Iran, he's there's some children right there who already decided that at 10 or 11 years old they're going to be the next wave of terrorists, right? Because we just killed their families, okay? And that's usually how terrorists are born, right? They watch something traumatic happen as a child, and then when they grow up, they get into that group of terrorists, and that's where it comes from. But we need to use that same strategy in America, but for positive things, right? For all the kids who are watching their grandparents die because they don't have Medicaid or Medicare, or for all the kids who are watching elderly people who don't have the benefits they used to have that the government used to provide, for all the young people who are watching people who are elderly who don't have a place to live or can't afford to pay their mortgage. We need to do something and stand up and get the next generation ready to fight. Okay. We may not be able to, again, stop a war or change oil prices, but we can shape the future because guess what? Whether he likes it or not, he's almost 80 years old. He won't be here 40 years from now. Okay. Unless he's 120 years old. That's just the way the world works. Father Time is not, is undefeated, but we can shape the direction of the future. But we got to start in our own communities. We coined that phrase, it takes a village, but then a lot of us, get to a certain point in our lives and leave the village and never come back. So I encourage you to, to try to work in your communities, try to make it better. I encourage you to try to build the next generation so the village can become strong again. And that the next generation is hopefully a kid or a couple kids out there right now that will be the answer to everything crazy that's going on at the White House right now. And maybe they'll have the answer because right now, all we can do is get ready for the next fight. And we can do it. And Lakisa, thank you for telling us about that home ownership. That's a big part. Don't be a renter, be an owner. Don't be a player, be an owner. Don't be an employee, be a CEO. And you know what? It starts today and you'll get there at one point.
Okay.
That's my take.
You got it. CJ.
I agree with, definitely focusing on our communities and building it up there, like Lakeisha and Carlos said. But I have to strongly disagree with Carlos with the we have to just ride this out sentiment, because I think this requires active resistance and active organization right now. Even though Trump won't be here forever, the people controlling him will still be here. The corporations that, fund him, that created him, the conditions that created him are still here. There will be another Trump, and that next Trump will be smarter. He won't be as dumb as and blubbering as the Trump we have now. That's one of the lucky things that we have, is that Trump is a moron and that he can't execute all the things he wants to do because he's so stupid. But the conditions that brought us Donald Trump are not changing, and the Netanyahu will just buy another American president. It doesn't, that's replaceable unless we address the system. And we're getting at the point where the system is so broken that I don't think there is going to be going back to normal after Trump. Still think there's an expectation that after Trump, we'll get like some normal Democrat president and things will go back. But I think he's so broken the world order and, just the normalcy of things. We even talked about Swalwell. Normally when there's a scandal, people used to step down and be ashamed. And, Trump never will step down. Like I said, he's going to have to die to get him out of that office, no matter what happens. And the standards of, just in terms of world diplomacy and things like that have been eroded and in our civil liberties and things like that have been eroded, I think, a little bit further than people have realized, because it's so exhausting in the news cycle. And it is so hard to keep up with all of it because it's depressing. And on the domestic front, I want to just reverse one of my old takes. One of my old takes was we need to be more understanding to the people that voted for Trump and try to find common ground and things like that. Not at this point. We've gotten to the point where everyone that was even ignorant, and reasonable is off that train. And I think we need to start being meaner to the people that are still supporting Trump, honestly. And I'm usually all about spreading love and being a lefty here, but like there's a level of stupidity and cult mindset that is actually dangerous to the fabric of America. That's the level that we're at. And these people need to be shunned from polite society at this point. If you're advocating for $8 gas because you just like a guy and because you hate Joe Biden, or you're advocating for going on wars and massacring civilians and blowing up a little girls' school because you don't like that 10 trans kids can play sports, then you need to be shunned from polite society. You need to be told that you're a moron. You need to be ashamed of yourself. And I think we need to really bring that back to the people that are left. I think some of the people that voted for him the first time, there was an understanding they were duped, and they admitted that they were duped. But if you're on the train at this point, the big year 2026, after everything, you need to be ashamed of yourself.
Okay. Trey, take us out.
All right. So, are you guys familiar with I know CJ might be. I know CJ's familiar, but you guys familiar with free car music? Y'all know what that means?
Talk to us.
So if you don't, free car music is the sound of gangster rap in DC. And as a person that works on the radio, we don't play very much free car music or whatever. Free car basically means like stealing a car. It's like catch like a UU, stealing a car, whatever you want to call it. But the violence here in the city, especially amongst the youth, has to be addressed at some point. I really believe that the music is, and this is like I said, this is a person that plays this music all the time. This music is evil. It has these kids in a psychosis that have them thinking that, this is the right way to live, catching my first body, or, saying just being outside and being chaos, creating drama and things of that sort is absolutely ridiculous. And it goes to, where we're in the crash out era. And I hate to see us, and I told my father this one day. I was like, man, we might have to throw away a whole generation just to get this thing right, because it feels like the youth is getting worse and worse, especially here in DC. Navy Yard is one of the nicest places to hang out at, but it's also a cesspool for violence and all types of stuff there. The kids are outside, and there's been a conversation about lifting the curfew for the kids. And I think this is ridiculous to even attempt to try to release the curfew for these kids, because it has become a problem that no one is addressing at this point. And, and I hate the same tropes that I see on Instagram. Well, you got to give the kids something to do. They need rec centers and da-da-da. DC got more programs than any place that I can think of. There's more options and places and things for people to do. These kids ain't going there. They're not interested in that. They're interested in being outside with their Pushaiti mask on with 90 degree weather. They interested in stealing their first car because they understand that they get charged as a minor. They get away with it. They get clout and they get some type of fame or local celebrityism for doing bad things. What's the kid? I just want to do hood rat things with my friends. Like, that was the joke, and that was funny when we first seen the little kid, but them little kids have grown up now, and they're now menaces to society. And I feel like we need to do something. I'm not sure what we can do on the ground level, but it starts with at home. We've got to make better home situations so these kids feel like they can be safe at home and not have to be outside in these situations where only bad things can happen. And also, real quick, I got 10 seconds. The Washington Wizards have finally finished their tank season, okay? If Adam Silver walks out there and gives me a ping pong ball that says anything outside of the top three, he's getting the offset treatment.
Okay. Can I add one thing for the music point that you made too, which is a great point, especially hip hop music for the Black community. Music is culture. And yes. I think what the record executives have done over the years, since maybe like the 90s, since like gangster rap, is degrade that culture and to turn it into what Trey was talking about. Well, they elevate and they spend all their marketing money and their dollars, and they develop the artists that seem to be the most ignorant artists possible. And that is what they fund, and they fuel all their money and push those artists to the forefront of radio play, of promotion, and they do that purposefully. And that does have a very tangible effect on culture, even though people don't look at it because it's just music and it's just rap and this. It's bigger than rap. Like, it does affect culture, and it will lead directly to the problems that Trey was pointing out.
All right, folks. We had a good show. Went overtime, but it's worth going overtime for this show. I want to thank everybody for being on the show. We had some hot takes, and Miss Spivey, congratulations on your first ever Randy Watson Hot Takes Award, sponsored by Sexual Chocolate. We want to make sure that you bask in the glow of that award. Hey, look here. I'm Gary Johnson for the Thought Brothers. And until next week, thank everybody. We're out of here.
All right. Good night.
Take care, folks.
Bye.
Good night.
I believe the children are our future. Thank you. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride. I decided long ago, never walk in one shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, you can't take chocolate.